Welcome to Medical Terminology. You may be wondering how you are going to ever memorize thousands and thousands of medical terms. We totally plan to surprise you. You're going to learn word construction. It is just like building with blocks, and there is very little to memorize. Here is a small example to get you curious. You probably have heard of a cardio exercise workout. The word cardio means that the workout is good for your heart. It so happens that cardio is a word part used in medical terminology. By the time you finish this chapter, you will be able to build, or construct, about 8 medical terms using a word you already know, cardio. You will see learning objectives like these at the start of each chapter. These are your learning goals for the chapter. There are 6 goals for this chapter. Just skim over these right now because they will not make much sense yet. When you finish the chapter, come back and see how much you have learned. Be sure to meet your goals for Chapter 1. Everything you will do throughout this course uses the building blocks from Chapter 1. Let us look at how your textbook works. If you have your book, it would be a great idea to open it to page 2. But if you do not, that's okay too. Our textbook for this class presents the material in small blocks. This is called programmed learning. You have a chance to practice a little bit with each block before you move on. That is just how medical terminology works too. It's all about blocks. You will build your knowledge one block at a time. Here is a suggestion. Use a folded piece of paper to cover the gray rectangles on the left side of each page. Read one paragraph at a time and see if you can write in the missing word with a pencil. If you can, that means you have comprehended that paragraph. And if you cannot, it's quite easy to move your paper and see the answer. So there's no need to become frustrated. This slide mentions spelling. In this course, you have to get used to the idea that spelling must be 100% correct all the time. Even one letter can mean the difference between life and death. Here is an example. Hypertension, spelled with ER in the middle, is the medical term for high blood pressure. Hypotension, spelled with O in the middle, is the medical term for low blood pressure. Both conditions are life-threatening, but the treatment is the opposite. You will soon get used to double-checking all your spelling. There is that word, pronunciation. Many students express concern about embarrassing themselves in the clinic by pronouncing a term incorrectly. That is a good reason to listen to this audio-visual presentation with every chapter. We will pronounce many of the terms for you. You can also hear the terms by visiting the companion website. The textbook helps you work on pronunciation by showing you what is called the phonetic spelling. You will need to remember back to kindergarten. You probably learned your ABCs by learning their sounds. We will work a lot with that in this course. If you have your book, look near the top of page 3. You will see the medical term cardiology. You also see the phonetic spelling. We will say it for you slowly. Cardiology. The phonetic spelling is how the word is sounded out. When you see these phonetic spellings, try saying the new term aloud. You will gain confidence, and when you hear the word again, here or on your favorite medical TV show, you will recognize it. By the way, the term cardiology uses the building block cardio to form a term that means heart specialist, a doctor who has studied the heart. Constructed and non-constructed terms. Think back to playing with building blocks. You could stack the blocks up, knock them down, and put them together again in different ways. That is what medical terminology is all about, we promise. Constructed equals built from blocks. Basically, we will have 3 piles of blocks to work with. You will choose blocks from each pile to put together the terms. We will learn the names of each block pile, aka word part, in just a minute. Here are 3 examples of constructed terms. We will pronounce them for you. pathology, tonsillectomy, neonatologist. You do not need to learn these terms yet. These are just examples. Have you heard any of them? The point right now is to see that these very long words are put together, constructed from small parts. Not everything about medical terminology is sensible. Let us go ahead and take care of the not sensible parts, and then we can move on. Some terms are not put together from word parts. They are not constructed. They are known as non-constructed terms. But that's not all. There are two main types, and they are called acronyms and eponyms. You use these types of words in real life. You have heard of scuba diving. You may not know that scuba is an acronym for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. An acronym uses the first letters of several words and turns it into a new, easier word. Pretty soon, everyone forgets what the original words were. Here is an example of a medical acronym: LASIK eye surgery. You've probably heard of this, or at least seen advertisements for it. LASIK stands for Laser-Assisted In Situ Keratomylosis. It is quite enough to learn LASIK and know that it's a type of eye surgery. The other main type of non-constructed term is an eponym. An eponym is a disease that is named for a person. For example, there was a Bartolomeo Eustacio who discovered that there is a tube between the ear and the throat. This tube was named after him. It is called the Eustachian tube. Every time your ears ever need to pop, that is because you are having trouble with your Eustachian tube. Then there are some random non-constructed terms that slipped in over the years for no apparent reason. These terms must be memorized, but your textbook will help make it easy. Here are three more examples of non-constructed terms. Impetigo is a skin infection. Coma is when a person is unconscious. Cushing syndrome is a disease named for a Dr. Harvey Cushing. Cushing syndrome is an eponym because it involves a person's name. You will learn about each of these conditions in their appropriate chapter later on. Here we are back at the block centers. The three people on the top play well with others. They are working together to construct terms from three types of blocks. The person on the bottom is going to have to play by himself. We will not worry about him very much. He will be fine, and so will you when you occasionally meet up with an acronym or an eponym. Let's meet our word parts. They are the piles of building blocks that we will work with throughout this course. There are three types of word parts. They each have their own job to do. During the first 3 chapters of this textbook, we will learn their job descriptions in detail. Their names are prefix, word root, suffix. One of the first things you have to realize is that not all medical terms have all 3 word parts. But here's the idea. The word root contains the main meaning of the term. Often the word root refers to a part of the human body. If the term has a prefix, the prefix comes before the root. If the term has a suffix, the suffix comes after the root. Each word part has its own meaning. The meanings must be learned. Here is an example from everyday life. We will build the word construction. Struct is the root. It means build. Con is the prefix. It means together. Ian is the suffix. It means process. We put them together in the order of prefix plus root plus suffix equals word. Con plus struct plus ian equals construction. The meaning works the same. It means together building process. Sometimes it sounds better to put the meaning in a different order, such as process of building together. However, what if you see a term like bradycardia? You might need a little help. Hold that thought because we will get to bradycardia in a minute. Here are a few more facts about the way this works. It will help you a lot to keep these facts in mind. Not every medical term has all three word parts. Some terms have more than one root. A term will have either one prefix or one suffix or both. If the term has a prefix, the prefix is first. If the term has a suffix, the suffix is last. Let's jump right in and work with a medical term. Bradycardia is a term that has all three word parts in order. Brady is a prefix. It means slow. Cardi is a word root. It means heart. Ia is a suffix. It means condition of. We will go in order. Prefix Brady plus word root cardi plus suffix ia equals bradycardia. Slow plus heart plus condition of equals condition of a slow heart. You know that sometimes people have very slow heart rates and they have to get a pacemaker. They have bradycardia. Now, let's build a term that does not have a prefix. You have heard of the stomach flu. That distressing condition is not really the flu. It is a medical condition named according to which parts of the body are sick. We start with the word root gaster, which means stomach. We add a suffix, itis, which means inflammation. Gaster plus itis equals gastritis. Stomach plus inflammation equals stomach inflammation. You can relate to this. If your stomach is inflamed, you have a stomach ache and you have vomiting. But let's say you get worse. You feel bloated and you have even more pain. Your intestine is involved. We need to add the word root for intestine, which is enter. Gaster plus enter plus itis equals gastroenteritis. Stomach plus intestines plus inflammation equals inflammation of the stomach and the intestine. But that's not all. Just when you thought you could not possibly feel any worse, you get diarrhea too. That means your lower intestine, called the large intestine or colon, is also inflamed. We need yet another word root. It is col for colon. Gastro plus entero plus col plus itis equals gastroenterocolitis. Inflammation of the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine. You have vomiting, bloating, pain, and diarrhea. Thank goodness gastroenterocolitis usually only lasts about 48 hours. Now you can see how we have used our three piles of blocks, which represent our three types of word parts. They are called prefixes, word roots, and suffixes. It's fun to play with the blocks because you can take as many as you need from each pile to build the terms that you need. Before we move on, years ago when we learned our letters, we learned that some of our letters are called vowels. Vowels have a nice open sound. The vowels that you learned were A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. In medical terminology, sometimes we have to insert a vowel in a term. This is so we don't end up with an unpronounceable word. Mostly, we use O. Every now and then, we use I or E. We did this when we constructed the term gastroenterocolitis. We stuck in an O after gaster and an O after enter. It just sounds better like that. As you learn your word roots, you will also learn their combining vowels. Examples: word root for stomach equals gaster. Combining form for stomach equals gastro. Word root for heart equals cardi. Combining form for heart equals cardio. Here are the combining forms for a few of the parts of the human body. These consist of word root plus combining vowel equals combining form. We will pronounce these for you. We will start at the top, go down the right side, and back up the left side. That is also called going clockwise. Encephalo means brain. Oculo means eye. Tracheo means trachea, the windpipe. Cardio means heart. Gastro means stomach. Osteo means bone, any bone, not just the leg bone. Musculo means muscle. Broncho means airway. Angio means blood vessel. Otto means ear. Each one of these combining forms has a word root plus the combining vowel O. Here are the rules for when to use a combining vowel. Use a combining vowel if the suffix begins with a consonant. Use a combining vowel if you are combining two roots. A consonant is any letter of the alphabet that is not a vowel. We did not need a combining vowel in bradycardia. The suffix ia starts with a vowel, so we had plenty of vowels already. We did put combining vowels between the roots in gastroenterocolitis. Let's build another term to see when we need a combining vowel between the root and the suffix. Cardi is the root that means heart. O is its combining vowel. Logist is a suffix. It means one who studies. Logist starts with an L. L is a consonant. We need the combining vowel. Cardi plus O plus logist equals cardiologist, a doctor who studies the heart. If we did not use the combining vowel, we would have cardiologist, and it just would not sound right. If a prefix is used, just stick it at the beginning and don't change anything else. Here is the example that we just learned. Brady is a prefix meaning slow. To mean slow heart, we simply put the prefix at the beginning of the term for heart. There are no spelling changes. Brady plus cardi plus ia equals bradycardia, meaning condition of slow heart. Well, if you feel like you're trying to learn a foreign language, you are. Many of our medical terms come from Greek or Latin. The ancient Greeks and Romans were curious and knowledgeable people, and many of their names for things have come down to us. However, they were certainly not the only ancient people to study medicine. Every culture of the world has contributed to what we know about the human body. For example, aspirin is found naturally in the bark of the willow tree. Although the name aspirin is a German name, willow bark tea was known since prehistoric times in the Mediterranean world and to Native Americans. The continent of Africa is particularly rich in traditional medicine. Popular medications in use today from Africa include aloe and shea butter. From South America comes the remedy for malaria, quinine, made from the bark of the cinchona tree. From the Asian world come countless treatments, both ancient and modern. Modern medicine owes a huge debt to men and women from around the world throughout history, who asked questions, observed carefully, brewed herbs, studied fungi and tree barks, and even dared to cut into the human body to learn more. Let's get to work on our first word part, the prefix. Let's practice using 3 of these prefixes. Brady means slow. We've already learned that bradycardia means condition of a slow heart. Anti means against. You have heard of an antibiotic. The root bio means life. An antibiotic is against life. Now that sounds weird until you realize that the germ making you sick is alive. Your antibiotic fights against the life of that germ. Pre means before. The prefix comes before the rest of the term. Let's continue with the other lists on page 15. You will want to refer to these lists often as you work through your homework, practice questions, and games for this chapter. Don't worry about learning all these word parts perfectly right now. You will meet them repeatedly throughout the course. Chapter 1 is just to get you started. The next list contains some combining forms. Remember, the combining form is the word root plus the combining vowel. We can combine 2 of these roots with the suffix logi. Logi means study of. It is used to refer to medical specialties. Cardiology is the specialty for the heart. It literally means study of the heart. Dermatology is the specialty for the skin. It means study of the skin. Doctors study several extra years to become a specialist. The suffix for a doctor who has studied extra years is logist. A doctor might choose to become a cardiologist, a heart specialist, or a dermatologist, a skin specialist. You may have heard of a disease called hepatitis. Remember that the suffix itis means inflammation. Hepatitis is formed from the root hepat, meaning liver, plus the suffix itis. Hepatitis is a disease that involves inflammation of the liver. At least two of these combining forms can easily be turned into terms you have heard before. The suffix ectomy means surgical removal. If you add that suffix to the root for uterus, it makes the term hysterectomy. A hysterectomy is the surgical removal of the uterus. Remember our suffix itis, which means inflammation? Let's add that to the root for the voice box. Laryngitis means inflammation of the voice box. Some of these are new to you, but if you think about it for a minute, you will realize that you've heard the word root nat used for birth. You may know a friend whose baby was in the neonatal unit. Perhaps this even happened to you or to your own baby. If you have ever been pregnant, you went to your clinic for prenatal care. This term uses the prefix pre, meaning before, with the root nat, meaning birth. You received care before the birth. Undoubtedly, you have heard of psycho. However, the combining form does not mean that someone is crazy. It simply means that the term pertains to the mind. For example, psychology is the field of learning that studies the mind. Our last word part to learn is the suffix. Suffixes are very useful. Almost all medical terms include a suffix. Most commonly, the suffix tells us what is being done to the body part named in the root. We will start you off with 15 very useful suffixes. You will meet these suffixes repeatedly. Do not feel that you must understand them perfectly right now. The most useful place to start on this slide is to learn the suffix ectomy. Many body parts may become diseased and have to be surgically removed. We already mentioned that hysterectomy is the removal of the uterus. Tonsillectomy is the surgical removal of the tonsils. This same suffix can be combined with the root for whatever body part needs to be removed. You have already met several of these suffixes. An extremely useful suffix on this slide is itis, meaning inflammation. If a body part exists, it can become inflamed. One everyday example is the word arthritis. Arthur is a root meaning joint. Therefore, arthritis means joint inflammation. The suffix logi is quite common also. We have mentioned cardiology and dermatology, the medical specialties for the heart and the skin. You will learn many more. Keep in mind that a scope is an instrument. It is a thing, like a microscope or a telescope. One type of scope is an endoscope. An endoscope is an instrument used to look inside the body. You're thinking, okay, I've got that. That isn't hard. But here's the problem. There is another suffix, which is only one letter different. It's the suffix scopy, with a Y at the end. When the Y is on the end, the meaning of the word changes to an action, the using of the scope, or the process of viewing. Example, Dr. Sigmund will use an endoscope to perform an endoscopy on Mrs. Jones. Now you know quite enough in order to construct terms yourself. We definitely recommend working with the flashcards, the practice games and questions, and everything else that is available to you. Your instructor can help you find these items in your course if you have not seen them yet. Of course, you break terms down the same way you build them up. Whenever you see a new term, break it down into its parts. You can look up the meaning of the word parts in each chapter and in Appendix A in the back of the textbook. One more time, here are the names of your building blocks, the word parts: prefix, word root or combining form, and suffix. Let's review the combining vowel one more time also. Remember, word root plus combining vowel equals combining form. The combining vowels are O and sometimes I or E. Use the combining vowel if you are adding a suffix that starts with a consonant letter. Use the combining vowel if you are combining word roots. Do not use the combining vowel if the suffix starts with a vowel. An example is the suffix itis. Itis starts with the vowel I, so you don't need any more vowels. You form a term such as hepatitis using the word root, not the combining form. Okay, we promised you at the beginning that you would be able to use the word cardio, which you already know, to form several medical terms by the end of the chapter. You have learned that cardio, from your favorite cardio workout, is actually a combining form meaning heart. Using prefixes, word roots, and suffixes from the list on page 15, how many medical terms can you already make with the combining form cardio? You might want to stop the presentation here for a minute and make your list. Then listen to our list. Bradycardia, slow heart. Electrocardiogram, electrical heart recording. Carditis, inflammation of the heart. Endocarditis, inflammation of the inside of the heart. Cardiologist, one who studies the heart, a heart specialist doctor. Cardiology, study of the heart, the specialty for the heart. Cardiopathy, disease of the heart. Cardioplasty, surgical repair of the heart. Others could be made. For example, you can combine the roots for heart and blood vessel. You would need a suffix we have not told you yet, but cardiovascular means pertaining to the heart and the blood vessels. There are two more things to do to finish out this Chapter 1 presentation. The next slide has a small practice quiz for you. Then return to slides 2 and 3. See if the learning goals make sense now. Use the lists on page 15 in the textbook to see if you can match up these combining forms. Welcome to Medical Terminology. You may be wondering how you are going to ever memorize thousands and thousands of medical terms. We totally plan to surprise you. You're going to learn word construction. It is just like building with blocks, and there is very little to memorize. Here is a small example to get you curious. You probably have heard of a cardio exercise workout. The word cardio means that the workout is good for your heart. It so happens that cardio is a word part used in medical terminology. By the time you finish this chapter, you will be able to build, or construct, about 8 medical terms using a word you already know, cardio. You will see learning objectives like these at the start of